welcome you to Conversations. I am here with the beautiful ladies of Conversations, and we have a great conversation in store for you. Now, we want to take a moment and thank the executive producer, Pastor Tony Smith. Let's give God praise for the man of God. Amen. And of course, Victorious Ministries. We're going to get right into the topic on today. Today, we are discussing managing your emotions. And I believe this is a great topic that we are going to be able to learn each from each other. Okay. So I'm going to tell you all what the definition of emotion is. It is a conscious mental reaction, such as anger or fear, expressed or experienced as strong feeling, usually directed toward a specific object, typically accompanied by a psychological or behavioral change in the body. So, my first question to you, beautiful ladies, are they say women are very emotional beings. Why is that?
I think women are more prone to show their emotions than men. I don't particularly subscribe to that we're more emotional. I think everyone has emotions and has opportunities to show or not show. But I guess in society or throughout time, women have been more known to show their emotions, whether happy, sad, indifferent, angry, mad, joyful. So our expressions maybe come out more so than a man's.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that expressions are more visible, possibly with women. We may do it in vocalization. We may be show it maybe on our facial expression. I think we probably give more energy or more character to how we express it, but I can't say that we may be more unless there's some statistical or stats that prove that. But I can't say that we're more over a man, but it may be how it is displayed that's why it's more evident.
And I think too, in history and our experiences, women have been looked upon to be the weaker vessel. And because of our expression of emotion, not that I don't think that men are less emotional. I think men are just as emotional. It's just the expression of it. Um, for women, I think it's become somewhat a part of our personality. I believe it's more so. I know women that are not very expressive. I know some very straight faced women, and oh my, and even as a woman, you're like, girl, you okay? Because I think expression makes us who we are. And I think it's very important that you are expressed both as a man and a woman, that it's important that you allow your expression to come through.
Yeah, that I agree with everybody. I think that women are more prone, like everyone said, to express those emotions, but everyone feels them, like it's the way that if you choose, you know what I mean, to let that be seen to the world. And I think that women more specifically, and I don't know if this is biblical or anything, but it makes me think about like Adam and Eve, or like Eve having to bear children and having to feel and being more in tune, women as a whole, to like other people, um, or just the emotions of other people. So oftentimes people would think about like anger, like that's something you can see, or like sadness, but to be able to discern, you know what I mean, like, or consider someone else, I think that that's an emotional thing, to be able to like look at something and associate a feeling with it, or like a course of action, like I need to do something or say something. Whereas though men, oftentimes they could be focused on one test, they're not really considering other people, or like how their response to people may impact them. So it's like, oh, they're not really emotional. Like women, it's like, oh, why did you say it that way? Just an example. Everybody isn't like that, but it's like you're really emotional. It's like, no, I'm just kind of in tune. Like your body changed or your tone changed. So it's like I'm more in tune. I feel women, so to speak.
So I'm gonna say this. I think a lot of times people may consider women emotions as being direct, and I think there are times that can be that energy can be given out wrong. Someone may say, "Well, you seem angry." No, I'm just direct about how I feel. Now, I don't know if you can categorize that as the same as feeling emotional, because there are people that I know who are very direct. If they don't like it, they'll say, I don't like it. And then some people may take that as an emotion. So, how do you manage that to, like, do you suppress yourself to make sure that um, you don't offend anyone because they already know or assume that you're an emotional being? Like, how do you make another person feel better so you can suppress yourself on how you feel? Does that make sense to everybody?
Well,
Know what
I
I mean?
think well, I think one of the key things is that I believe that one of the key things is that first of all, emotion is not a negative thing. So we have to take the derogatory aspect out of being able to express your emotion. I think it's very necessary that you express your emotion because the Bible said that you could be angry but sin not. So that expression of anger is a part of our nature as beings. So it's not for us to be use it stereotypically like, oh, women are more emotional, so you have to guard yourself because of their expression, right? It's human nature to be emotional. And I don't think that anyone should have to dummy down their expression, but more so work on their delivery. And I think it's the delivery of your emotion that becomes derogatory and not necessarily your desire to express how you feel.
So, Brianna, do
I
you?
want to add to what you asked. I think that it requires us to be self-aware because and I have recently had to survey myself, right? Because what you have to do sometimes is how are people experiencing my emotions, right? And so if it's a commonality where you notice that everybody feels that you are a certain way, then I think that is something that you do evaluate and change because you made a good point. Do I change who I am just because a person doesn't like it? I don't necessarily think you should change who you are, but if you're being experienced a certain way by a great number of people and it is in a negative way, I think that should be evaluated. Why are people experiencing me that way when my intent may not be this way, but that's how I'm being experienced, especially if it's a multitude of people. If it's one person, that could just be personality conflicts. That could just be cultural experiences. Sometimes you have certain cultures that speak dominant to a person that could feel like disrespect. But when you know the person's culture, you will not be as offended. But when it's everybody experiencing a particular way, I think you should, it's a choice to evaluate the emotion that you're expressing to people.
I just wanted to add a little more to that. For me, I consider the environment and what my emotional reaction would be. So, if it's a certain situation and I know it would be harmful to the person, I would try to hold my emotion until I will hold it until I stepped away. But if that person, I discern they need to know, like I'm unhappy with something, if they need to, yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna get
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But if they've offended me and I know they really meant no harm, I can hold my offense and maybe deal with it at another time. And just for me, it's just about considering the environment, the timing, the person or people that I'm with.
So, Toya, I have a question for you. I don't mean to put you out there on the spot, but do you feel like certain situations can trigger a person?
Absolutely. I think I think this will all come back together. But Brianna made a point about like self-awareness, and that's so good because I think oftentimes people may not be aware exactly of what they're feeling. So you may not have like an external expression of what you're feeling, but in the inside, like your heart is racing, or like your hands are sweating, or like you're shaking. So you're having all these experiences. And some people, like if, for example, if someone's like, you're angry, but it's like deep down inside you're like you're really fearful, like you're afraid. But people don't see that. They see the outer shell of how you choose to portray that. But oftentimes people don't they're not always aware of even how they feel. So it's like to other people, it's not that I'm trying to purposely offend them, it's that I'm not in tune with myself to know like how I'm feeling and how to regulate myself so that I can't consider other people and how I impact them or how I show up in the room if I myself is, if I'm not aware of how I
And
feel.
some behaviors are learned. You learn because what I'm finding out in my older age is that I want to increase my ability to communicate. because oftentimes we don't say what we mean and mean what we say because we lack the ability to express ourselves effectively to say, I want you to clearly understand what I'm saying and not misunderstand. So to a degree, you can't protect misunderstanding, but because we lack the ability or the knowledge or the know-how to, because when my mama get angry, she throw things, you know, I saw that. So that's my expression of anger. Or my father, when he's angry, he gets silent, so certain behaviors are learned. And as Bree said, that self-awareness requires a lot of maturity, because what happens that you first of all have to remove yourself from the conversation to step outside of the picture, to look into it, to say, "Hmm, maybe that wasn't a good idea," or maybe because I'm guilty of it. I have said something and then I had to go back and apologize, say, I didn't mean it that way. I hope you didn't, because as I walked away thinking about what I said it may have been misinterpreted, like, oh, to further explain. And a lot of times emotion doesn't come with explanation.
And a lot of time, and a lot of that's a good point that you said about maturity, because there are some times where you will say something, and the way you said it, the person will get offended in how you said it, and then that person will become emotional, whether good or whether bad. So you were speaking about you becoming mature and trying to be better. And I think we all are, regardless of our age, whether we're middle-aged women, early age young women, or whatever. But y'all are nice and young.
We getting up there.
But still, I mean, but I think life, as women, we try to be better every single day. And I told myself the beginning of this year that I wanted to be more present and aware now, and I think life has our mind. I know life has our mind going everywhere. We're thinking about work, we're thinking about our husbands, we're thinking about our children, we're thinking about our future, we're thinking about what if it don't happen, what if it do happen. We have so many things that is going on. So how do we manage that when it comes to dealing with our husbands, when it comes to dealing with our children, when it comes to dealing with work, our family, ministry? How do we I'm not going to say it's not a balance. I'm gonna say you can probably say it is a balancing act, because you're coming to church, you're ready to worship the Lord. You just got off. Let's just say you just got off work. You're trying to come into the church and you come and do the things the Lord asks you to do. You come home, your husband like, where the food at? I'm hungry. You know what I mean? The children, I need the homework done. And then at that moment, you can become, overwhelmed. And so how do you handle all of that? How do you put that on a scale to make sure that you don't lose yourself in the moment?
I think it's really important that before you respond to anything that's coming at you and you're feeling overwhelmed, to take a pause. Take that moment just for yourself before you let it out, so that you won't have to go back and apologize. To consider and maybe even identify what you're feeling, because sometimes I'm feeling a certain way. It's not angry, and I have to sometimes, oh, I'm frustrated. Oh, I'm anxious. Like, I have to take time to really identify what it is that's bothering me. So taking that pause sometimes helps you get the reaction or the emotional response that is helpful and not harmful out.
That's so funny. I actually had that. There is a thing, it's called practice pausing. If someone says or done something upsetting, take several deep breaths before you automatically respond. This helps you to de-escalate situations or process them differently. One way to do this is to let go the desire to win every encounter or every argument. And but I think that also comes with pausing, I think comes with mindfulness. There was this thing I think some jobs may have it on their like wellness programs where they have mindfulness, where it's like a journal. It's like electronic, but it's like journaling. Well, how did you feel today? How what or different things that you experience. And I think mindfulness helps you process things that may be having it all in your brain may not do. So sometimes when you start to give language to a feeling, it helps you process it. So I think that you can start to create boundaries or create healthy, effective communication when you're able to process what you experience. like you said, when I walked away from the situation, I became aware, like maybe they didn't come, because that's practicing mindfulness. And sometimes you can't practice mindfulness when you don't pause. If you are literally work, business, church, cook, and you literally have no pause, there's no ability to practice mindfulness. So I think practicing pausing, but also practicing pausing with mindfulness will allow you to evaluate and handle circumstances differently.
That's good. So I have a question for you ladies. How did Jesus handle his emotions?
I think at times it's different
Okay.
because I can remember certain instances when reading the Bible. At times, Jesus was very patient with people. You know, he didn't fly off the handle, but then there are times when he turned over the tables in the temple because he let it be known, like, I'm not feeling this. This ain't right. So I think Jesus handled it the way Jesus handled it. He read the situation and he knew what was needed to get the right response from the people.
I think that's really good to bring up though, because oftentimes, and you all have mentioned it about like emotions being negative or like people not having permission to feel, and having examples of Jesus be like reflecting different emotions and different responses to his emotions, crying, flipping over,
Yeah.
tables, different emotions. It gives us permission to be like, it's okay to feel, but it's what I do with these feelings, because a lot of shame can come from, oh, you're weak because you're crying or you're feeling. And it's like, no, like it's okay. Like something happened or I'm having a response to something. I'm having this reaction because of something traumatic in the past and I'm being reminded or whatever, like I'm triggered, and that's okay. It's how I choose to like care for myself and also let that come out that means the most.
That's so real because Jesus said, "Take this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will." And that when I was reminded of that, it made me feel like you said, permission to feel that I'm not less godly or less Christian or less a believer because I have a moment of an expression or a feeling. But what I do with that, now he says, nevertheless, your will be done. So I think again, I don't know if Jesus was practicing mindfulness, but but the feeling was present.
Yeah.
But what he did with it, or his reality of take this, how he processed it, or what he did after his emotion was key.
And I think too that it's important as we look just not only at Jesus, but throughout the Bible, that humanity is in the earth. And each and every one of us is subject to those human moments, those things that he put in us, and especially the stereotype of the church.
Yep.
That you can't be angry and be a Christian. I can't flip your table because you pissed me off and be a Christian because, whoa, you shouldn't be behaving that way. So I think it's important that we be the example of self-control in our emotion. And that's oftentimes where we fall short, because sometimes when it's unleashed, you say, come back, because what have left your tongue, um, you can't chase it down. You will be chasing it forever. So I think the self-control that Jesus preserved is the lesson. Like, yes, you can be expressive in your emotion, but be in control of it. Don't let it control you. So he was still able to take and save you and say, show me your withered hand, all in the same breath, because he didn't lose respect. And so they was able to, oh, this Joseph's son, and still be able to respect his walk, because sometimes we have done things, said things that people have lost respect in your walk when it was just a moment of emotion, and now you're chasing to regain that placement.
That's excellent. I think you ladies are giving really good points. The Bible says you can be angry. That's what the Bible say. Just don't sin. You know what I mean? So I thank God for the freedom of having that emotional, that emotion that, there are times where life is going to put you in a place where you're going to be like, you know what I mean? And it's okay to feel that way. And it is also okay to show that at that moment you may be weak, but it doesn't mean that you're not strong because of a moment. You know what I mean? So I want our viewers out there to know that it's okay. That's what the word says. But I have a question. Like, what does the Bible say about emotions? What does it say? What does the Bible talk? What does it say?
Tell us to guard our heart.
Okay. Mhm.
Teaches us, he said, for out of it
Yeah.
are the issues, right? And I think that what weighs in your heart, Pastor said something so powerful this morning in the teaching. He said, in fear, there's no love. And I was like, wow. He said, because your conversation doesn't represent love and peace in the things that represent God. So because the two things can't dwell in the same place. So when you guard in your heart, you're making sure you're not allowing those moments to become a lifestyle of expression. Like when this conversation started with Brianna saying, if it becomes repetition that you have a personality of anger, that is a sign that maybe something has resonated in the heart. It ain't on the surface no more, baby, because every time you talk, it's coming out, right? And I think that that's an important thing, that in our emotion, because you can tell the difference between an angry person and a bitter person. Anger is a moment. Okay, I'm angry. Bitterness is something that's set in.
Yeah, my thing for me is everybody doesn't need to see everything. So I don't need to show, no matter what I'm feeling, everybody everything. Like I can hold it until I get to a place where I can manage myself. And if I can't, I'll remove myself. Okay, excuse me, step away or whatever. But I'm a big subscriber to everybody doesn't need to see you naked, basically.
I think we have to be our best advocates. Like, you know yourself, or at least the hope is that you know yourself. So if you are feeling like triggered or aggravated in a situation, like, you have to say, I don't want to respond out of emotion. So if it's like, I acknowledge what's happening right now, but I just want to take a moment for myself. So it's like, you're not really like you are escaping the situation, but in a respectful way, that you're not like not acknowledging the other person's feelings, but also just like checking in with yourself. I think that's so important, because you know yourself. You know, if somebody say something to you, like, that you can just jump off the rails and respond in a certain way. And that every situation doesn't require that. Even though that's your first nature to do it, it's like, this isn't appropriate. This isn't gonna glorify the kingdom. Like, but I know that I am, like, inside, I am warring with myself. But I'm also conscious that I don't wanna be perceived that way. So it's like, I'm maybe not, the best thing for me to do is not say anything. And you have to just take a moment, but sometimes you have to take a step away and then come back to a conversation when you are less emotional, but or when you have an opportunity to feel and think it through, and then be able to respond properly.
So I have a question. I want you guys to, we have a few more minutes, and I just want you to encourage someone, because I know there are a lot of people um, who may not know how to deal with emotion. They may not know how to walk away from a conversation. And sometimes what happens is, when a person is saying something that you don't like, the next thing you know, you're at war with that person is at war with you, and then both of y'all looking crazy, because now you can see these all types of emotions coming forward. But some people don't have self-control. Some people don't know how to walk away and do their timeout, as we used to say, for our children. You're on timeout, you go sit over there and think about what you've done. So how could you encourage a viewer on today about handling their emotion? What are ways they can just say, time out, let me take a moment, without being disrespectful to one another, but showing love to one another, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member? How would you encourage someone today on dealing with their emotions?
I would say we keep using that word moment, take a moment for yourself, but I would also say allow people to have moments. Like, don't be easily offended. Sometimes it comes down to grace. I love this person. This person is a part of my life, and I've been offended by their reaction or whatever. But everyone, I tell my people this all the time. Everyone has moments. Allow them that moment, but don't let it be a repeat offense. Like, give them the grace, give them that forgiveness, and repair that relationship. This relationship is important. This relationship needs longevity. So I would say allow for grace and forgiveness in receiving different people's emotions, and also yourself. And when you do mess up, forgive yourself.
Brianna.
For me, I would say something that I'm trying to practice is be transformed by the renewing of your mind, especially for negative emotions. Because sometimes if you don't and make an intention to renew your mind, you can live a cycle of a particular character, not just with a particular person, but just with life in general. How you have to ask God, like, open the eyes of my understanding, because I am triggered by this type of behavior, not necessarily this person, but the behavior that a person may bring. So God, like, help me be transformed by the renewing of my mind, which is something that you have to do daily. And sometimes even in daily is minute by minute by minute. So it's not just I did it in the morning, even out throughout the day, you'll be constantly be renewing your mind. So I would encourage you to be renewed by be transformed in your emotion, your negative emotion, by the renewing of your mind.
And I think that too, I would encourage them to know that it's okay to create boundaries. Because sometimes boundary is necessary until you come into an understanding. Sometimes we can place ourselves in circumstances that we're not quite ready for, and we have certain triggers. And I think that, as Bree said, and everyone has been saying the whole show, I think honesty, to be honest with yourself, is a key factor to really get to the root of emotion, to say, why did I respond like that? Because it really wasn't that you offended me. You really pierced something to my anxiety or my low self-esteem, or so I think that creating the boundaries and being honest would be a good place for you to start to say, why do I react the way I do?
That's very good. There's a quote that I hold, and I'm also give a scripture. It says, "To thine own self be true." You got to be true to yourself. You got to know who you are, and you got to know when you're weak, and you got to know when you're strong. All right. Galatians 5:22 says this, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control." And I think that's the root of everything, is just having that self-control over your emotions. Each day, there should be growth in your life. There should be something, a part of you, that you can say, I may have not did it great on this day, but tomorrow I'm gonna give myself another chance to make it right. So we thank you so much for tuning in today on Conversation. Shout out to MIT Janelle. I'm filling in for her today. Child, these are some big shoes, or little shoes to fill, if that's what you want to call it. Amen. But we truly thank God for you tuning in. Please leave us some comments there. We thank you so much if you enjoyed the show. And of course, we give honor to our man of God, Pastor Tony Smith, the executive producer of this show. Thank you so much for being a part of Conversations. God bless you. Bye-bye.